Thank you for watching Dimpers TV, and thank you and welcome to the program. Before we start, I'd like to tell you a little bit about why we've been off air for some time. We have had time to kind of evaluate the whole program and kind of analyze it and assess it all. And we've come to a point where we need fresh faces, fresh ideas, and obviously within the community, things that we experience that we don't talk about. I just really want to appreciate each one of you for watching the program this evening. Also, just to note that our times for the program have changed. We're now on air from 6 p.m. Reason that is so that everybody, family, can gather and learn. Of course, what we say about Dimpers TV is educate, motivate, and awareness. I might have got them the other way around, but we are what we stand for. And this evening, I'd like to welcome an awesome, beautiful lady called Veronica, who I met on a networking event, and she got an amazing charity based in Morden doing amazing things. And it's such an honour to have you here this evening, Veronica.
Thank you.
Welcome to Dimpers TV.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Veronica Carraro, and as you've said, I run Kevin Carraro Leukaemia Trust. I'm also a registered mental health nurse. I'm also trained as a director behavior therapist, which is simply put, it's behavioral therapist. And I'm also a coach. I'm a life coach.
Oh, wow.
So I do teach people how to manage their lives.
Wow, that's so awesome. And I think it's great, it's powerful, isn't it, when you meet a woman with so many different hats on. And I think at the end of the day, it all kind of come together for the right reasons, don't they? Yeah. So we met on a beautiful networking event, which I'll never forget that day. And great woman, we sat next to each other.
Yeah.
And when you started telling me about what you do, I was so intrigued. And it just felt right to bring you onto Dimpers TV and just to tell me a little bit about why you set up Kevin Carraro's Leukaemia Trust.
I would really say that maybe 7 years ago, I wasn't really the person I am today.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those mornings that you wake up and you're very excited.
Yeah.
Everything is going well for you.
Yeah.
I was working for the NHS. I've got two wonderful kids. I'm a single mother of two boys. One was in university, the other one was in college. And really and truly, I didn't have anything much to worry about at that particular, nothing big. And the day, I remember that day very well because it was really my birthday. So it was a day that I was looking forward to be able to be with my family. But as I was cooking and waiting for my boys to come home, my son was in uni doing IT, and that was Portsmouth University.
Yeah.
So he was coming home obviously for mom's birthday dinner. And as I was cooking, I got a call. And I looked at the phone and I saw it was Kevin, my son, and I thought, oh, he must be calling me from the station. He wants me to pick him up. I said, hello, Kevin, and then the phone went off. And I kind of worried and I thought, what's happening? So before I could call him back, the phone rang again. And this time it was his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend then and they were coming home together. And then I said, okay, Dion, what's happening? But before I could finish, the phone went down again. And now at this time, I'm kind of baffled and kind of worried. As a mother, you feel, what's happening? Because this is not like him. And the last call, this was Kevin, and then I was excited. So, Kevin, what's the matter? What's happening? And he said the words that I'll never forget the whole of my life. And he said, Mom, I've just had a call from the doctor. You told me to go for a blood test. So taking you back, 2 weeks prior to that, he had a call that was not going off. And I had called him because we had a very good relationship. So I used to call him in uni, and he had this code, and I said, have you seen the GP? Oh yes, Mom, I'm taking this and I'm taking that, and it's not going. He said, why don't you go and get a full blood test done? And coming from a nursing background, so I thought I would advise him to go to the GP and ask for a full blood test. And today, the same day, actually he had gone for the blood test.
Exactly the same
The
day
same
today.
day that morning.
Oh,
And he
okay,
had
sorry.
and he had demanded it from because mom had told him, so he had gone and asked the GP, can I have a blood test?
Yeah.
So it was really kind of weird that on the same day, in the evening when he was coming home, he was actually on the train coming to, for mom's birthday, that when they called him and he said, Mom, they just called me and they say I've got leukemia.
Hang on, let me just stop you there 1 minute. So, what made you want to tell your son to go and get the blood test done?
Because as a nurse, I knew you can't have a cold that is prolonging.
Okay.
And I think it had prolonged even probably more than 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I was kind of wondering why would it, because he was doing all the right things. He was taking paracetamol, he was taking Nurofen, he's going to the GP, and nothing was working. And every time I called him, I could hear his voice. As a mother, your children.
You get that instinct,
You
don't
get
you?
that
That
instinct.
motherly instinct.
That motherly instinct. So I felt that, I told him, look, sometimes we got more underlying issues when we have a cold. Why don't you just go to the GP and get yourself checked up? And he listened to me, thank God, and the same day, I think they must have looked at his blood and they must have seen it was abnormal. So they actually called him straight back to Alexander Hospital in Portsmouth. And let me tell you, when he said that, the phone slid out of my hand. I started shaking. I wanted to call him back, but I couldn't see the keypad. And I think after that I was numb or paralyzed because I had heard about leukemia, and I did know what leukemia is. But you see, it's one of those things you always think that happens to others.
Somebody else and not yours, yeah.
And I couldn't figure out why it was happening to me.
And I think at that moment you even think, what is leukemia? You kind of stepped sort of that, because I remember when my daughter was born, and I got a nurse come to visit me, and she said, I'm afraid I'm here to tell you bad news. So I said, well, what kind of bad news? That your daughter's got sickle cell. So I was like, okay, what's the big deal? Should you understand? And it's when I read the booklet about sickle cell, about the stroke, the blindness, the all that goes with it, the depression I fell into was unbelievable. So, I mean, I'm sorry to cut you there, but I just had to kind of say that. Carry on with what you're saying.
So, I thought it always happened to others, and now it was home. I didn't know how to deal with it. And then all I remember is after I came out from the stupor, what I would call it, or paralysis, the only one thing as a mother I remembered is my son, who is with my son. And I kind of got crazy. I called a friend, and luckily enough, she came running, and we quickly set off. My other son obviously had come from school. He had me probably scream at some point, and he came down, and when he learnt it as well, we were all probably confused. Anyway, to cut a long story short, so we drove all the way to Portsmouth, and I can tell you that we went there and the doctors told us we were not really sure. We're gonna do more tests and then we'll confirm tomorrow. So we had to spend the night at Portsmouth, and that was the worst night of my life. I prayed. I don't know what I didn't do. I talked to God as you would as a mother. But unfortunately, the following morning, they confirmed that he had leukemia. And actually, he had the acute myeloid leukemia, which is a very aggressive leukemia. And our journey started. And even though after that I talked to the doctors, and one of the doctors, the consultant, told me, you don't have to worry so much. Nowadays, the prognosis is not so bad. We'll try and get bone marrow match and things will be okay. And I thought, with the new technology, there is probably nothing much to worry about.
When was this? What year?
That was 2012.
2012.
That's when he was diagnosed. So, fast forward, we went through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and also I went through, as you said, I went through depression.
Yeah.
I mean, when you watch your child go through kind of deteriorate, you feel helpless and hopeless. You want to help, but you don't know how. But the shock actually came when one of the days the doctors called me. I literally used to live in hospital because I would go at 12, stay in hospital till 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning and go home. In the morning I would wake up. Waking up was a problem for me. You know, there were those nights when I would sleep and I didn't want to wake up to the reality. To the reality that my son is in hospital. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what to do. But somehow God gave me the strength, and I think I was a robot.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 years I was kind of operating like a robot.
Yeah.
But one of the days I met the doctor and he told me he wanted to see me, and we went to this room, and I was kind of worried because I thought, what does he want to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
And of course you're always waiting for the worst, isn't it?
Yes.
And he told me, we have checked the World Bone Marrow registries, because as you know, we're trying to look for a match for your son. Because what they were trying to do is to do chemotherapy, get him on remission, so that then in the meantime they're looking for a match so that they could do a transplant. And then they said, unfortunately, we couldn't find a match for your son. And I screamed and I said, the whole world?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? What are you talking about? I mean, I was literally going crazy.
Yeah.
And then he sat me down and told me, Madam, there are very few black people on the bone marrow register. And I'll tell you this, that a black only matches a black,
Yes.
and Caucasian matches a Caucasian,
Mm.
and Asian matches an Asian. So, and unfortunately, there are very few black people who are on the register, and we experience this problem all the time, and there is nothing we can do. And that hit me so hard. And by the time they were telling me, they had already, because my son was already over 18, they had already talked to him.
Yeah.
So
is there any point at that time that any member of the family could have was there a match for anybody?
They had already asked for my blood. Obviously, they already knew I was a half match, because you can't be a full match for your child because you're two people. So, but they had taken some blood from his brother, which of course stated at that point he wasn't a match, and he only has got one brother.
Wow.
So, and also what really kind of I didn't know what to do, but it really shocked me. This was information I didn't know. Nobody has ever told me. I wasn't aware of, even at this point when my son was going through leukemia, I have to say I take ownership that I hadn't probably even Googled and learned about what is it expected, what we have to go through. I've put my full trust on the doctors and the treatment process.
Let me just ask you a question there. For those that are watching, somebody might say, what is leukemia? Because not everybody understands what it, I mean, to be honest, until you were going to come on the show, I had to do a little research on that.
Yeah.
And there may be some viewers out there watching this thinking, in the first place, what's leukemia? What is it?
Leukemia is the cancer of the blood, and as you know, we got it. When it means that it's the cancer of the blood, it affects the white blood cells. And what white blood cells is all about is, as you know, in our blood we've got red blood cells, we got white blood cells, we got platelets, and we got plasma. But with the white blood cells, they are the cells that fight infection, and they protect the body. So if there is any antibody coming to attack you, this is the white blood cells that comes out and fights any enemy that wants to come and attack the body.
I see.
They are usually manufactured from the bone, in the bone marrow.
Okay. It then brings me on to the next question. Bone marrow.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of that in our community. Until, I think, to be honest, in a black or African community or black community in general, until it's happened to us, we don't want, not that we don't want to know, we don't know. So explain to me what bone marrow is.
Right.
I know, but maybe the viewers.
I don't know whether you have eaten a chicken or a goat.
Yes.
And you have
you can put it simply as that.
and you've had the thigh of a chicken when you've eaten a chicken. I remember when you were young, once you eat a chicken, the next thing you do is to crush the bones.
Yes.
It's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
when
it's
you
very
look at it,
nice.
yeah.
I still do
Inside,
that, by the way. Yes.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Inside, obviously, if you're a very keen person, if you checked inside, you see it's usually red, but within red it has horror, within it, and within there, that is where actually they manufacture all the cells are manufactured.
I see.
Yeah. So it is the matter. Bone marrow is really the matter that you find inside the bone.
The bone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And you needed a match for your son.
I needed a bone marrow for my son, and what I learned is he needed to come from ethnicity, my ethnicity.
As in where you're from.
As in where I'm from.
Which is
not as much as where I'm from, but within ethnicity, our color.
Our color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black. So that is the main thing. Although they say it is very likely to find it in your siblings, within the family. Then the next level is usually relatives of where you come from, because it's all about genetic material.
Yes.
Biological
Absolutely.
genetic markers, because that's what they look for. So really and truly, it's really easier to find it from ethnicity, and then within where you come from, that's it. But within the black community, obviously that's a very big pool that you can be able to find a match.
Let me ask you a question here, because something really baffles me.
Yeah.
Why is it that black people don't donate, don't give their bone marrow? Why don't we want to come forward to say we want to help? Tell me some of the stories you've heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. Where do I start? One thing, when we start, okay, now, so for us to make Kevin Karara Kidney Trust, my son, when he was in hospital and he learned that, he said, "Mom, if I get well, I'll make sure that I start something to get young people to register and become potential bone marrow donors." And actually, when he died in 2014 because he couldn't get a bone marrow match.
Yes.
He couldn't get a bone marrow match. He died on 20th of May 2014. He was 24. But before then, what happened is that during that time he was unwell, there was a workshop brought by the group called ACLT, African Caribbean Leukemia Trust. And this nurse who was looking after Kevin told me, "There is a talk tonight, would you like to attend?" And it is about leukemia and bone marrow. And we went, me, my son, and his girlfriend, and we went and we sat there. And this lady, Beverly DeGale, she stood up and she gave her story about her son and how she also struggled to find a bone marrow match. And after the talk, I ran to her and I talked to her. And we were so lucky because she took our case and she said, "We're gonna take this and we're gonna start looking for a bone marrow match for your son within your community." And I started wondering, why hadn't anybody told me about this? Because we could have even gone back home and tried to do something within our community to find out whether he could have gotten a bone marrow match. So they took our case, and I remember we had an appeal on the national media, on the local media, but unfortunately it was too little, too late.
Yeah.
At that point, things were so much down the line. But through them and the work they do, and also what my son was had felt about doing and wanting to do, after he died, we thought, why don't we push his legacy, and why don't we reach to the young people he said he wanted to reach, so that we can get more potential donors from the BMA community. ACLT have been doing great work, and they really are my inspiration. And that is why we formed Kevin Karara Leukemia Trust. And our aim is to create awareness, is to educate our people, and really to solve this problem. And since we started, I have found there are quite a number of reasons why our people do not come forward. And one of them is lack of information.
Yes.
Or lack of education, and that's where also the category I fell under. Even being a nurse, I always say, I lift my hand out to say, I didn't know about leukemia, I didn't know about bone marrow transplant, I didn't know nothing. And it all boils to why would I be bothered?
Yeah.
It's
When it
not
doesn't
my
affect you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why,
Yeah.
why would I be bothered? So that is one of the reasons. The other one is really ignorance. And one of the things I challenge people when I go to do talks is, can we afford to be ignorant in this day and age? I don't think so, because everything is on the internet.
Yes.
We can educate ourselves. Even you don't have to go to any class. You can go and Google and find out what is bone marrow, what is stem cell donation, but we don't do it. And one of the things I say is, ignorance is very dangerous, because it is affecting us as a community. Because I strongly feel that as a community, we don't do what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
We don't solve our own problems. We always expect other people to solve our own problems. And I think it's a high time we came together, and so that we solve our own problems. Because we cannot expect, I wouldn't have expected a white person to be a match for my son. And if that cannot happen, then why would I? Because what I learned is that any white person who was diagnosed at the same time with my son, they had matches.
Would have, yes.
And
because they donate, because they go forward.
They go forward.
They go forward and say, look, I want to help.
Yeah, and statistics show that 90% any Caucasian who gets diagnosed with leukemia, they get 90%, they get a match. Whereas for a black person, you got less than 20% of getting a match.
Let me stop you there for a minute. What message, you're looking at camera for me, what message would you say to our viewers out there? What do you want to say to them? I mean, you lost a son.
Yeah.
If we'd have found a bone marrow, you know,
You'd be alive
he would have been alive today.
Yeah.
So I just want you to talk from your heart and speak to the viewers and just say the effects of not being able to come forward and say, look, I can help, the repercussions it can have.
Before I probably even tell them that, is that there is also fear in within the reasons.
Yeah.
We fear because when we hear about bone marrow, people kind of are worried. They're gonna cut my bone and stuff like that. There are those myths. So we also like to deconstruct the myths, the myths of what's bone marrow and what do you do with my bone marrow. And fear is justified, and it is real. It is a normal emotion. But it is not justified when you have the facts.
Absolutely.
So I urge our people is to go out and find facts. Find out about donation, the process, what happens, you know. And once you have the information and you have educated yourself, you can confidently say, I can save a life. And the other things I always also realized is our culture, our traditions, our belief system also stops us doing the right things.
Yeah, yeah. Whoa. Veronica, do you know what? It's just, I don't know what to say. You know, when you're learning every day, you know, I just wanted to turn to the camera and just say to our viewers, please share this video, make a comment. We've got Veronica's details here. It's Kevin, just repeat that for me.
Kevin Carraro Leukemia Trust.
She's based in Morden. If you Google it, you'll find her everywhere. Save a life by just, you know, coming forward and saying, look, this is what I can do. There's really no operation involved. I'm not the expert here, but I know there's no operation involved. All those myths and all those things we hear about donating blood for sickle cell, for example, or maybe donating bone marrow for our own people so we can save a life. It's not always about, you know, when we say give, it's not always about monetary.
Yeah.
You can save someone's life by researching a bit more about leukemia and going out there to kind of donate the bone marrow, if I've said that right?
Yeah, and nowadays it's called stem cell donation.
Stem cell donation. Maybe if you can explain a little bit about that as well for us.
The reason it's called stem cell donation is because the old ways was obviously the bone marrow, where they would put a needle into the bone marrow. And nowadays very few of those happens, but they have come up with a new way of doing it. So really donating is a very, very simple process. All you need is, first of all, the first stage is to take a cheek swab. And this cheek swab, they correct your saliva. And then they take it to the laboratory, and then all they take is your biological markers. We call it HLA tissue typing, but for people, for layman language, for simple understanding, is they just take your biological markers that are very unique to you, and they put it on the database. And what they do, they put it on your database. and that's it. You have just become a potential donor, you have registered yourself, and you have agreed, yes, if I ever match someone, I can donate. So all you do to start with is to become a potential donor.
So what's the process of the actual donation? What is the process of
that's,
it?
Yeah, so that's the first process. Now, the second process is, now if somebody now gets leukemia somewhere and they need a transplant, so that's when they also take their biological markers. Then they come to the database and they check, are there any biological markers that matches the patient? And that if they find that your biological markers matches the patient, it is at that point that they give you a call.
Okay.
And they ask you, do you want to donate? And now at that point you can say yes or no. In this country, they can never do anything without your consent.
Exactly, yeah.
So the third thing is, obviously, when you say yes, then, and in the whole process they'll keep on asking you, are you okay? Are you okay? So the third one is, once you have to say yes, they will just do a health check. Are you healthy enough to donate? Now the last one is, I think what they do is, not I think, actually that's what they do. If you say yes, 4 days to the donating, they give you some very small injections where you inject on your skin. This is just to increase your white blood cells.
Right.
And this is the increased blood white cells, which will be produced by your bone marrow, is the one they are going to harvest.
Yes.
So what they do is that they'll put, I don't know if you have ever given blood, the process is just like giving blood.
Yes.
So they put the cannula here to get your blood. They put it through a machine. This machine will separate the red blood cells, the platelets, and everything. They will only take the stem cells, which are the white blood cells, and then they'll put back everything in your other arm. You get back just the other stuff, and then whatever they have harvested, which sometimes it depends on the weight of the patient on the other end. So they do these measurements. That's what they'll harvest, and you go home. The only thing that actually is there is it takes about probably 4 hours or 5 hours at most.
So let me stop you there a minute, please, Veronica. 5 hours of someone's time could save a life.
Could save a life. It's as simple as that.
Okay. So viewers, just on that point, please, 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 if there's anything at all you can do to help the Leukemia Trust, particularly as Black people, I don't think I'll mix the Asian with us. Is it just really different? Everybody's different? Or is it BME?
It's BME, so that is Black and other ethnic minorities.
But not BAME?
Yeah.
Because the Asian is separate, isn't it?
No, they are also there. Because they're also low in numbers.
Okay.
As much as Black people are low in numbers, any other ethnic group in this country, minority, is very low in numbers. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just really looking into the camera, and all I want to say is, honestly, if you can help in any shape or form, Veronica's explained the process. I actually
simple.
It's that simple, and I didn't actually realise that it was so simple.
It is.
The only question I wanted to ask you though, once they've collected that and separated the white blood cell and the other, and put the other one back, how's the process of putting it back?
So they also put another needle here, like the way they give blood.
Yes.
So they'll give back your blood on this other arm. When they're taking this other, so they are going through the machine. The machine is separating what it needs, and anything it doesn't need, it comes back to you.
Okay.
And then they just take the white blood cells, and that bag will save a life. And I always say that you can be a hero, you can leave a legacy, because can you imagine if you saved somebody's life, and then that life will bring a smile to their face, to their family. You might even be a catalyst of starting another new life altogether. Because like say, if you saved a life, somebody has saved my son's life, he would probably be having a family today. So that person would have saved not only his life, but they would have created another family, which is really leaving a legacy. And I think I always say that as Black people, we are very religious, and I'm not saying that religion is bad. It's very good, but we hardly ever practice what we learn or we preach. Because I think the ultimate gift that you can ever give somebody is a life.
Absolutely.
It exceeds money, it exceeds anything, and that drives me. Sometimes I go to events and I don't mind if even just one person registers, because then I know if that one person can save somebody's life, then I always say my son didn't die in vain. If we could save just one life, that really what drives me, and I'm really very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I wish I knew what I know today.
Yeah.
We probably could have done better, but hey, we are where we are.
Yeah. And I know leukemia affects every community.
Yeah, every community.
I know people that have lost, children, partners, friends through leukemia, and I don't think there's enough awareness out there.
Yeah. No.
And what you're doing is just awesome. It's just so awesome, and I say continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And one more thing I'd like to add is when we partner with DKMS.
What does that mean?
It's DKMS is a registration. Is a bone marrow register here in this country. We also work with people with Anthony Nolan, but we normally kind of work more with DKMS. And if you're 17 to 55 and you're in good health, you can register to become a potential donor. It doesn't mean you become a donor, because you might never be called, and your name will stay in the register up till you're 61, and then they remove it. So chances are you might never be called, but at least you can become a potential donor by just registering. And if you click on DKMS, or even in our website, you can get the form for DKMS, and you can register to become a donor. And they will send you a kit, and all you do is do the saliva swab and fill the form and send it back to them, and you've done it. You've done it.
Simple. And do you know what? I think it's so great having you here today, because I've learned so much. Like I said, within our community, unless it's happening to you, I didn't know nothing about sickle cell until I had a child who's got sickle cell. So I've now learned a lot about sickle cell condition, And now that I've learned a bit from you, of course, coming on Dimpers TV, it's going to obviously go to so many viewers that we have. So hopefully people will contact us. And please drop your comments, email us. If you want Veronica's details, it'll be on the video when we finish. So please contact her direct in any shape or form that you can help. We would really plead with you to become a bone marrow donor. Have I said that right?
Yes, or stem cell.
Or stem cell donor.
Yeah.
And I just really want to say, Veronica, thank you so much for coming today.
You're welcome.
Also, our YouTube channel, you can always watch this program that we've here live on our YouTube channel, which is Dimpers TV. When you do go on there, please share it, because there's someone somewhere who needs this information. Also, our phone number 07944 346028. Of course, Dimpers Lounge is done on a voluntary basis. Dimper himself, the founder, he does this absolutely free. There's not a penny from nobody, and we're pleading for sponsors. So if anybody can sponsor the program, obviously it will help people like Veronica, like Linda we had previously, and all our other guests that we've had on the show. Also subscribe to our TV channel, and we are so grateful that you could join us this evening. And I just want to say that you guys are amazing in watching the program, engaging, giving your comments and everything else. It really does help us. Now, one thing I want to say is together we can make a change.
We can.
Thank you for watching.
I'll be the one.
Thank you.
If you want me to.